Welcome back, friends, to The Pulse. I am David Harris Jr. Well, for decades, Venezuela sat on some of the largest oil reserves on Earth, while socialist mismanagement and corruption under Maduro turned that national treasure into an economic disaster. Under President Trump, the U.S. has taken a very different approach, one focused on stability, energy independence, and American economic interests. This isn't just about foreign aid or nation building, no. It's about opening the door for U.S. energy companies, reducing our reliance on hostile regimes, and creating American jobs in energy infrastructure and refining. It's a whole lot taking place right there, and the president didn't mince words about how American energy dominance reshapes the global balance of power.
In terms of China and Russia, well, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to go to it. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Well, the Trump administration has reportedly spoken to multiple oil companies about Venezuela. So how soon might Americans start seeing impacts on supply, prices, and jobs? Joining me now to discuss is founder and CEO of Ascalon 6 Capital, Anthony Esposito. Anthony, thank you for joining the Pulse this evening. What are your thoughts? Maduro's capture opens up Venezuela's oil to the United States. A lot of people are saying, oh, Trump's just doing it for his billionaire buddies. It's all about the oil. And it's about freedom, I think, for Venezuela and the oil. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, first and foremost, the critics that are coming at Trump and saying that it's not about the people are the same people that were screaming that he had to let in refugees that were running from dictators like Maduro. So that whole mantra, that whole argument is ridiculous. This is about multiple things, as what Trump normally does is it's 4D chess, right? First of all, it's about energy and oil. We had gone down to Venezuela. We had invested and built infrastructure in Venezuela years ago, which was then stolen from us, from our companies, our infrastructure companies, our drillers, by Maduro. So the idea of going back in and trying to access that oil, which, by the way, is the largest reserve on Earth within Venezuela's borders, makes perfect sense. The fact that the Venezuelan people have now been freed from a ruthless dictator makes perfect sense. The fact that we have enemies of the U.S., adversaries, moving into the Western Hemisphere, like China, like Iran, heading into Venezuela to access our hemisphere, to access that energy, to access the rare earths, and to be within striking distance, we've now taken that away. So on multiple fronts, this makes perfect sense. As far as jobs, we'll start to see jobs as infrastructure starts to get rebuilt and we start to normalize. I would say that's probably at least 6 months out. And as far as production, real oil production from Venezuela, I would say that's years out. That has to be at least 2 to 3 years out before we start to see real production, just because of needing to rebuild that infrastructure and get that oil out of the ground.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I've shared with so many people that have tried to say, oh, you know, this isn't good. This isn't about America first. I'm like, you have no idea what this is going to do for the United States of America to be in this position to help grow this, the supply of the oil, have a controlling aspect, partnership in it, whatever that looks like. Is this going to be like generational impact for the United States and Venezuela alike?
Absolutely. Remember, decades ago, Venezuela was the U.S. of Latin America. They were up and coming. They had all the opportunity in the world, mostly because of those oil reserves, that energy, and that was taken away, squandered, stolen, and destroyed. So this is a generational move for both the Venezuelan people and for the United States. I think it's a wonderful move. It will bring wealth and prosperity back to Venezuela. I think President Trump kind of goofed and said, make Venezuela great again, but I think he believes that, and I think it's going to help in the U.S. as far as oil production, as far as cost of energy, which is obviously front and center in his agenda. It's a generational move, and I hope that over time Venezuela not only becomes an adversary within our hemisphere, but becomes an ally, and I think that that's a very legitimate hope.
Yeah, I do too. And I don't think he goofed. I think he actually meant that. He's going to make Venezuela great again. But at the same time, 4D chess player he is, he's making America and the future of America great at the same time as well. And you're right. As far as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he also made it clear that this won't change its sanction policies until Venezuela's oil industry benefits the Venezuelan people rather than a handful of corrupt officials. Watch.
We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela in 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is?
Boom. Wow. Wow. You know, he says the way to address it is to benefit the Venezuelan people, is to get private companies that are not from Iran or somewhere else to go in and invest in the country's infrastructure. What's your take? About 30 seconds for you.
That's exactly what we need, and he's 100% right. U.S. companies are the best at what we do. We are in the same hemisphere. This is our neighborhood. The Monroe Doctrine has probably been Googled more in the last 24 hours than in the last 24 days or years. We want to be controlling the Western Hemisphere, controlling energy production in our sphere, and this is a great way to do it. They have the energy, we have the drillers, we have the exploration companies. There's no reason that we can't work in tandem with Venezuela. It makes a lot more sense than letting China, Russia, and Iran come into our neighborhood, steal the energy, and position themselves to potentially hurt the U.S.
Can you please just share that sentiment with every Democrat that you know around the country and all the politicians? I'll make sure that clip goes viral too, hopefully. Anthony Esposito, God bless you, brother. Thanks for joining the Pulse tonight.
Thank you.